So I'm going to introduce something now that I've been talking about, this one-page plan. At the end of this, we're going to get more into the little details of how it actually works. But I want to introduce the concept of the one-page plan. So this is sort of inspired by some for-profit things that are maybe more common. They have these things called operating systems for-profit businesses. Maybe you've heard of scaling up or EOS or all these different things. And this is just a set of methodologies that's really meant to grow these for-profit companies. And what's very common is like a dashboard, like a one-page plan of your strategy. This is what we're doing in our business. This is what we hope to accomplish with it. How is it working, right? And you have regular check-ins. And we saw this as a great opportunity to steal some really good ideas to translate that for the nonprofit world. So the idea of the one-page plan is it's a really living document dashboard of all your communication strategy. And so what we did is we stole some of these ideas from proprietary systems and expensive software you have to buy to kind of run your business. There's all these scaling up systems you can buy, which are, you pay every month to use. We took it all out of that. What we did was we just made a standard Google Docs, a Google Doc sheet. And Google Sheets does not require software applications or a subscription or anything. And this is kind of that tool that we found is a really nice dashboard living document. And it's a great tool for engaging leadership and everyone top to bottom across the organization. So everyone can push towards those same goals. So everything we're going to talk about for the rest of this webinar, all of those things wrap up and filter up really into this dashboard. So the dashboard, for instance, does not have every single detail on personas, every single detail on your branding, but it has all the major components of those different areas all in one place. So you can easily reference it and really use it as a tool to help drive all that work you're doing with your communications. So the part that kind of companion part that goes with this is we created this communication strategy toolkit. And I'm going to go through these things now in a little bit more detail. And then if you decide to download and use this will be in the follow-up email. So don't forget to miss that. There'll be a bunch of resources for you can download and use. And so if you ever want to watch this again, it's a good companion piece to walk through this toolkit, right? So it's basically a PDF. And you'll have the link in that follow-up email next week. So it's the PDF is designed, you can print it. A lot of people print it, put it in a binder. And, if you're a pencil and paper kind of person, or you could fill it out digitally if you have the software that lets you fill out PDFs. And so this is kind of the approach for this toolkit, is it's really what I like to call a Goldilocks strategy. So it's enough, the toolkit has enough activities and details to have a serious impact on your communication strategy, but it's not too much to be really overwhelming and look like a big daunting task to use this. And another note is this is about the 4th version of this. This thing is continually expanding. We're adding more activities to it. There's going to be new versions coming out. So if you find this valuable and you do want to keep using it, stay in touch with us and there'll always be an updated version for free. I'm going to change this poll quick here too. So thanks for the polls. This is really helpful. I got a new one here about documenting goals. So here is the first chunk of this, which is you probably have this stuff more or less figured out. Most nonprofits are pretty good with their mission. They're pretty, on top of it, but we always start with any communication strategy. We really start with defining your mission. So it's never a bad idea, even if you've had your mission defined, maybe it was 10 years ago, your mission document was written, if you have one, so it is also not a bad idea to kind of refine this, review it, especially as things change. We just had this pandemic, right, and COVID, and then technology comes out and changes things. So I know lots and lots of nonprofits really had to almost expand their mission a bit to keep serving their community. During COVID, they had to maybe add some extra things. So, missions do change over time, always revisit it. So it looks like a lot of you do have some documents outlining your goals. That's great. Some people don't. It looks like about 25% say you don't have any goals defined at all. So if, growth and serving more people is a priority, goal setting is very important. So the first is this mission statement and mission brief. The mission statement is pretty straightforward. We don't really need to talk much about that. The mission brief kind of expands on just your general statement, right? And goes into what we've been talking about, that special sauce. You know, if you deal with housing or food or addiction recovery, what is the real specialty in that area that you do, right? And then talk about, in the mission brief, we talk about your products, programs, services, all those things that you do. What are your strengths and weaknesses in those areas? Maybe, you know, with housing, you are able to house homeless women with their small children. That could be a big strength, right? Maybe your facility has cribs and nursing rooms and just different things that help with that. And then you want to think about, what is the what do you promise? You know, what if someone engages with your brand, what can they expect? What does the brand promise and represent? And then also, very important with the strategy of your communications is, how do you back that up, right? And we found this is actually can be an issue with nonprofits that do really amazing work. It's kind of funny. It's almost, the more amazing the work you do, the harder sometimes people believe that this is not a scam, right? So we've run into that with some of these, our clients that deal with housing and stuff. And they're like, you're going to house me for free, help me get my GED, help me do addiction recovery, all these things. This can't be true. This must be a scam, right? So really having the proof to back up what you do is important sometimes with building those programs, filling out those programs with people. You know, people usually who are struggling and need help, they have reasons to be skeptical, right? And then another one, when the mission brief is, why would someone choose you over another place? There's probably likely other nonprofits in your general area that do the same thing. What do you do better? Why should someone engage with you? Why should someone donate right to you versus another organization? Or why should someone use your program instead of another? And then really right after the mission, we're going right into goals. Goals is really important for our work. How we engage with clients. We always want to show value of communication. This is your strategy. This is what you've been doing, and this has been the impact. So there's value there. So defining your goals is really important. And this sheet and some of the other ones we're coming up, you can use multiple times, right? So if you do have a pretty focused, singular mission, and you do one thing, you might need just one goal in Kippy sheet. But if you have a couple, right? If you have a couple things, and I'm going to show some examples where these fictitious nonprofits that I've created to help show you how these documents work, they sometimes have more than one goal, right? So for the goals and Kippies, you first think about, what type of general campaign is this? Is this awareness? Do you still need to make people aware that your organization exists, or make donors aware that this issue is such a big issue? Is that the main focus of the campaign, or are you already established? Is it consideration? Are you trying to run a campaign that will have donors really consider your organization over some other ones? Or is it a conversion campaign? Are you really trying to fill a program? Say you have free job training every quarter, you can train 100 people. You want to fill that. You want to get people who have been on your website to convert, to sign up, to whatever. And there's some area for short-term and long-term goals, and then Kippies that represent these different things, right? So your goal, say your goal is to fill a program of 100 people that will go through job training. Well, important Kippies around that could be time on page, right? Time on the program page. Is time on that page going up? Are people reading that? Are they really considering it? Are they looking at the details? It also could be, you know, it could be submissions. Are you getting people filling out a form, submitting their information to apply for that program, right? So depending upon this, the core campaign stage and your goals, you're going to be filling out these different Kippies. And then also the core channels. Not every goal maybe go across all channels, right? Say you have an older donor population, they're just not on Instagram, right? That's not the channel for a capital campaign to raise funds, because your donors, that's not where they are. But your participants in your program, maybe they are on Facebook or Instagram or somewhere else, right? So you may want to have goals, Kippies, and campaigns based on that. So this is kind of the goal and Kippy area. And next we're going into a persona workshop. And you can get even more complicated than this, but what this represents is kind of what we feel are like the minimum, kind of like the minimum information to really form a good persona that's useful, that's going to actually provide real value to help you really strategize your communication. So the idea with this, again, is this is kind of one worksheet per persona. I would hope you would at least have one. Usually it's 2 or 3, most nonprofits. Typical, is a donor persona, a participant persona, maybe a volunteer or even employee persona. So you can go in more depth than this, but this is the basics. So, and many times people will do one for donors, and like I said, it may split. A couple years later, you find you've got this group of newer donors that are really good at supporting you, and maybe you find a bunch of very common traits with all of them. You want to design a persona for them, around them, so you can grow that group more, right? Maybe it's a younger group of donors donating online with credit cards, and that's not traditional for you, but you want to grow that. So, you're going to fill out kind of a name, and these usually have fun names. Like, I showed you that other one. It was, I think, Caretaker Kathy. So you kind of create a fictitious name. You go through what are the demographics, like age, title, education, income. Then you kind of dial into their personality. Are they introverted versus extroverted? Are they more passive or more active? And then, kind of score their motivations. Think about how they interact with your organization already, if they do. What are the online, the offline interactions? What are their main challenges that these people have, and what are their goals? What are they trying to accomplish? What are their preferred channels? And maybe even write a little story that's kind of the day in the life. Day in the life of this person. What online things do they do? What online brands, online systems are they using? Offline, what do they do in their life? And this helps you kind of design a strategy to communicate right to this audience, right? The next area, and let me quick switch the poll here. Thank you again very much for those polls. It's helpful. So this is one about the mission. The first section of this was that mission kind of worksheet. And like I said, most nonprofits have that down. But when we did this training in person, it was very interesting. Usually, but pre-COVID, we did all of these kind of free training sessions in our office. And it was very common for nonprofits that came to have like more than one person. They have 2, 3 people, maybe someone in leadership, maybe like whoever does their website, and maybe an intern or something. And they have multiple people. And it was really fun to do a blind test where they all fill out that mission separately without looking at each other's, and then they compare. And sometimes they're very consistent and right on. And actually, sometimes it varied wildly, like someone in leadership and then the head of their marketing had very different ideas. So it's not a bad idea, like I said, to revisit that mission and maybe do one of these blind tests, have people fill it out and see what they say. So it looks like so far the people that have answered, no one has done a blind mission exercise. So might be kind of fun to do, especially now, like I said, COVID and technologies and things change. You a tweak to your mission might be very valuable to document that. So now, once we've talked about your mission, your goals, and we've figured out who the personas are, who are you trying to communicate with, now we get into that style and voice. And it starts with just some technical info. Technical info like the official name. How should the name of the company be written? How should the address be written? How should the phone number be written? Things like that. Official fonts, colors, a little bit more technical stuff. And it actually is important. And many nonprofits don't realize this, but especially if you are sort of localized, say you're providing housing or support or something where there's physical places your participants go, it's incredibly important for online SEO. If you want to be found online and you want to have people to be able to search and find you, you want to come up at the top of search engines, come up in the maps when people are searching for, a shelter or something or whatever it is. If online being found in SEO is important, it's incredibly critical actually to always write your address and phone number and name, organization name, the same way. That helps Google connect all those dots. So it's important for SEO. And then the branding details, fonts, colors, things like that. And then some exercises like adjectives that describe your brand, how you're different, right? How you're different from the other organizations trying to accomplish the same mission. And then really the style and voice. And I'm going to show some examples of how this you document this and how it rolls up to that one-page plan. We're going to look at the area that kind of talks about language, how you communicate. So that is a little more subtle. Those are subtle details, but it's really fun to do and to get into those details, because what it can do is help really solidify what your organization sounds like, right? How do you sound? I think you'll notice if you look at some really exceptional brands and organizations out there, they have this very sort of consistent tone, consistent way they talk. And if you see a social post or get an email from them, there's some kind of campaign, it's almost recognizable, right? So that's actually very important for the strategy of your communications. Now we're going to go into planning for the channels. And again, this is one you may do for every channel, right? You're going to fill this out for your website, your email campaigns, maybe even specific email campaigns, like the donor outreach channel, where you reach out via email to existing donors. That's kind of its own channel, right? And so the channel and content planner work together to help you plan out those individual communication pieces, right? This is really important too for social. Social's not kind of new anymore. Instagram's not new. Facebook's not new. All the nonprofits are on these channels. So if you do really want to stand out, right? If you want to stand out and cut through all that noise, having a good plan and a strategy, right? And sounding different and sticking out is really important. So this also is a great tool for sort of keeping track of your persona coverage. So by persona coverage, I mean, say you have 3 types of participants, kind of distinct people, and you've created these 3 personas, making sure that you're not ignoring one. Like, you want to make sure that your communications, is covering all of them. So you're not just accidentally never speaking to that one type of persona. It will help you to figure out, are you generating enough communications and content pieces to meet your goals? If one of your goal is to say double the amount of credit card donations you just get on your website from unknown people, well, you may, if a source of those incoming web traffic is social or email or whatever, are you doing enough content to get the number of people you need to your site to donate, right? So these are 2 worksheets in there. And then this is something that I love to do with nonprofits, because usually nonprofits haven't put a ton of time into it. And I'm going to switch the poll. I have a poll related to SEO, actually. Let me pull that up. So don't discount SEO. Absolutely do not discount SEO. SEO, by SEO, we mean search engine optimization, basically making sure that everything you're doing online, your content, your website, everything else, all the links that are coming to your site, the profiles on other systems, how you appear in maps, how you appear on social, all of those things, making sure those things really are optimized so that you will show up in the search engines. And the reason why this is important is almost always organic traffic is the best. And every organization is a little different, but typically organic traffic, people that just find you, is the best type of visitor for your social media, for your website, for whatever, right? Because someone who is actively searching and looking for something is ready to take action. If someone is searching for, a place for addiction recovery, if they're doing the searching, they're ready to do something, right? They're ready to take action. Someone searching for places to donate to, they are thinking about donating, right? So again, you see on these worksheets for SEO, we start with goals. We're always starting with goals. What is your goal? How much, more visitors to certain pages or program pages do you want? Those types of things. And think carefully about your keywords. So there's a keyword discovery worksheet here. And just a side note, if you don't have a tool for keywords, or I'm not sure how to approach keywords, a good thing is to use something like Google Ads. So Google Ads, if you set up a Google Ad account, or maybe you have the Ad Grant account, which is great if you're a nonprofit, official nonprofit, for sure, sign up for the Google nonprofit program and get that ad grant. But even if you don't spend any money, even if you have it all set up, but you don't run a single ad or spend a dime, part of Google's ad system, is this nice keyword research tool. So you can use that for free. So think about your keywords very carefully. How do people find you? If people are searching for a program that you offer or wanting to donate to an organization like yours, how are they finding you online through those organic means? So that's very important. And be careful about sort of insider language too. Be careful about making keywords that are maybe make sense to you and your staff and your sort of industry, but not the participants. Make sure you think about, how is my actual persona going to find me? It looks like a lot of you are doing are leveraging SEO, which is great. More than half. So that's awesome. That's a trend that's changing. If I would have asked that question maybe 5-10 years ago, I bet it would be almost no one. So that's good. And some of you said you're not leveraging SEO, but you want to. Okay, so that's good too. And it's easier than ever now, with WordPress and all these tools. And there's a lot of tools that give discounts to nonprofits too that can help with SEO. So it's getting easier. So here's some kind of bonus worksheets that are part of this. These do relate to strategy, but these are basically for on page, meaning on your website, pages you're building on your website. So the first one is an SEO one. Since we just talked about SEO, this is related to SEO. This helps you really keep track of and refine sort of the keywords for that page, the titles, the headings, things like that. What are the calls to action on the page? What persona, right? Who is this page targeting? Who is it for? And, what do you want them to do on the page? Is this an awareness page, or is it a conversion page? Is it your donation page? That's a major conversion page. And then the page brief worksheet, which is sort of more about audience messaging, communication strategy for that particular page. And every page, this is a good tool to dial in value. So every page has a value. And if you're a nonprofit, you don't have like a product page where someone buys a product like a widget, right? But you do still have to have value for that page, because even if someone is not donating, buying anything or whatever, they are spending their time, right? They're spending their time on that page, on your website to read your content or whatever. So making sure every page does have value is important. Pages with no value who no one visits, or they visit it for 1 second and immediately leave, that kind of hurts your SEO. It kind of just hurts overall your communications. So make sure every page has value. And if you have some pages you feel are kind of important, but they don't individually have enough value, maybe that's a sign that those pages should be combined into a bigger page. So these are really helpful for dialing in not only SEO, but to dial in the audience, the messaging, and the value of that web page content. So we've gone through the toolkit. The toolkit's it's like 13 pages now. We are adding more things to it. We kind of continually tweak it. So now I'm going to go through sort of an example of how that toolkit all wraps up into this one-page plan. We're going to look a little bit closer at the one-page plan and kind of how it can be leveraged to not only keep track of that communication strategy, but actually execute individual things around that. So that was the last poll. Actually, yeah, that was the last poll about SEO. So thank you so much for the polls. That's very helpful and insightful. So this is sort of the overview. I showed this before. So this is totally fictitious organization I made up. We don't any of the one-page plans we help clients develop. That's all proprietary. We don't show that to anyone. That's very proprietary to them. So this is a fictitious client I created called ESL Services. So ESL Services, their core mission is to provide ESL classes to individual people for free. So that's what they're giving away, free classes. If you're an immigrant, a refugee, you're new to the country, you want to get a better job, improve your life, do all these things. They really believe, part of this fictitious organization, they believe core to that mission of improving immigrants' lives is, of course, communication, right? So they have a dual mission too. I talked about this. Usually organizations have a bit of a dual mission. Main mission is those free classes, but also they train ESL teachers, and they have training materials and training classes and events for both administrators of ESL programs in other schools or universities or other places, and sort of full-time teachers and even volunteer teachers. So that is a funding source of them, not just donations, but they run programs for teachers. Teachers pay to attend these programs. That helps fund the mission, helps give away the free classes. So their main personas are the students. They have one persona for the students. Another persona is a full-time teacher. So someone, this is their full-time job. They paid a salary, work at a place, and they may be interested in training, right? And then part-time or volunteer teachers, they are usually retired teachers that were professional. Now they're volunteering to help. They're passionate about this cause. And then another persona is administrator. This is an important one. This is someone who may be reviewing training for their entire staff, and they may want to send 10 people to training. That's a core persona for them because it's a big source of revenue. So I'm just kind of making up this fictitious example, which I actually think is really applicable to probably a lot of nonprofits. So the top chunk, this is just the top chunk of the one-page plan. And the one-page plan has three major areas, three columns. The first one being what we call communications core. The communications core is all the organizational things, all the things about your organization, like your purpose, your messaging, your competencies, industries you may be targeting, personas you're targeting, all of those kinds of things. The brand core is about how your organization speaks and talks, how you represent yourself. That's the language and the voice and those little things like that. That's all in that brand core area. And then actions and metrics. And that's where you kind of keep tabs on your campaigns. What are the channels we're using? What are the campaigns we're currently running? What is the journey that individual goes through that campaign, right? And then what are the specific goals? And so that's kind of an idea of the three major areas of this one-page plan. And so this doesn't have every detail about your persona in it, right? It only has space for like one or two and kind of the main points of the persona, so that you have those main persona documents, which are really detailed. Like I've been saying, it all wraps up into this. So this is used as really a dashboard, sort of living document that everyone can really easily reference when they go to do their work, write email campaigns, do social posts, whatever. So we'll take a couple small areas of this and maybe take a little bit of a more detailed look. So this is part of that brand core area. So this is the core branding stuff. And so here's the voice characteristics that we were talking about. And there was that worksheet kind of about your voice and tone and stuff. And this is where you can capture that part of it. So this is incredibly useful for writers, social media managers, people helping with email outreach campaigns, all of that stuff. Virtual events even, and even leadership. When leadership and interns and everyone speaking the same language, that just is really core to the strategy of your communications. So here's some examples. I filled this out so you can see what we're talking about for voice characteristics. So this has, and you can, of course, add more columns to this. If you want to have an organization with 10 voice characteristics, you could. That's probably overdoing it. Really, 3 to 4 to 5 is probably all you need. So this has space for 3. So they have a characteristic, right, that's like educational and insightful. They're in the educational space as part of their mission. So core voice characteristic is educational, insightful, quality information, but that's straightforward and it's easy to digest. So the examples we have down there for do then is do back up your information with some kind of data and use simple language. But the don't part of this is don't be condescending, don't be judgmental, don't be highbrow, don't use industry speak, don't kind of communicate in ways that the average person can't understand. So that's kind of an idea right there. And there's some area down there for tone too, where you talk about tone and the purpose of your language and stuff. So that's just a small chunk of that brand core area that can be really helpful to define. And this is another area that's really cool that I found nonprofits really helps them sort of keep tabs on their campaigns and goals and metrics and stuff. So this and this is the area of the document that probably changes the most, right? Your mission probably doesn't constantly change, right? You have a core mission. Like we said, technology situations change. So maybe it's tweaked over the years, but this is the area of the one-page plan that really changes, usually quarterly. Usually it's a quarterly kind of review of this, because this is what are your actions, metrics, campaigns? What are you trying to do right now, right? So I filled this out for something called campaign. I just call the teacher training cap. So this is one of the training programs they're going to run in 2022, and they want to fill it with people because they use all that revenue for their free programs, right? So it has the channels they're going to use. They're going to do an overarching campaign across everything. So it's going to be their website, social media, Also going to use teachers forums. There's other places on the internet where teachers gather and exchange tips and information. They're going to participate there, promote this program. They're going to have some earned media. They're going to do some special things, release press releases, try to get some interest, some earned media. They are going to have, there's going to be a virtual conference happening at some point. They're going to have a booth there. And then they're going to do email campaigns. So that kind of talks about the channels. There's the campaign name right there, just Teacher Training Camp. Now this is a really cool thing to think about, which is the journey. What is the journey between not knowing that this company exists, ESL services, to becoming actually an advocate for it, right? Okay, I got a question here, which I'll take in a second. So it looks, so this is the typical journey they found. So the journey is, there's really 4 major places. There's awareness. People have to become aware you exist. There's consideration. They're considering engaging with you for something. Conversion, they're actually going to sign up, do something, right, or donate or whatever. And then advocation, which is really awesome. That's where you've turned your program participants or donors or someone else into really a communications tool for you, right? They're recommending other people. So the journey is broken up into 2 major areas. What are the actions that people may take as part of that journey? What are the metrics that you want to track that's part of that journey? So you'll see there, I'm not going to read through it all, but you can see how that works. You know, there's distinct actions and metrics for each area of that journey. And then part of this too, if you scroll down on the one-page plan, is where you capture the goals. So this is where those goals are captured, and see how specific it is. It's what, how, and when. So the first thing is, what is the first goal? Well, they want to determine what the sessions are going to be and how much they need to charge, right? And so then the how is, they're going to complete their session outlines and planning and determine costs and ticket prices. And then when they want it done, they need this done by, Q1 2022 for this campaign. So I just made all this up, but this gives you a good idea of how this is organized. So it looks like we do have the first question, which relates to this. Is the one-page best used for separate campaigns per quarter? So the way the one-page plan works is there's like an empty template, and then there's your current version. And this is just different sheets in the same document, right? We use Google Sheets. You can have a sheet that's an empty template, so you can always see it empty. You have the sheet that's your filled out one you're currently using. And then some people may create a sheet for each quarter, so they can see their goals and stuff that they had previously and not overwrite it. So it's kind of up to you how you want to do it. Typically, nonprofits are on sort of a quarterly schedule, or maybe they have 2 major things per year they're doing. And so they may just update it and not keep the old information, or they may duplicate the sheets so they can go back in time, right, 5 years, and see what was our goal 5 years ago. What were we doing for quarter 1, 5 years ago? So it's kind of up to you how you want to do that.